this video, you know what, man? I'll just do this later. Right, hey there, John Morris here, and welcome to another episode of John Morris TV. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how to avoid procrastination and all the stress that comes with it when you're working on your projects. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to talk about what the problem is, or why we as coders tend to procrastinate. So I found two things that really cause me and other coders that I've talked with to procrastinate. The first is that when you're first learning code and you're getting your head around it all, everything's new and exciting and fresh, and that is something that's really appealing to coders. I've found coders just tend to have a tendency towards wanting things that are new and exciting and fresh. However, as you become good at coding and you start taking on clients and you work on more projects, you end up doing some of the same things over and over again, and it can become a little bit mundane. And so what we as coders do is we procrastinate, because what happens is we end up having to complete a project last minute, and while that's frustrating and it can be annoying and it can seem stressful, it's also a little bit exciting. And so it brings some excitement to what we do as coders, and we kind of live on a little bit of that drama. And so that's one of the reasons that we tend to procrastinate. The other reason I found is that when we start looking at all of the things that we have to do for a certain project, it can start to add up really quickly mentally for us, and it can become a kind of mountain of work that we see in front of us, and it becomes overwhelming. And so instead of tackling that mountain, we tend to avoid it and put it off to the last minute, to where we have no choice, and then we get a bunch of, we pull an all-nighter, we get a bunch of excitement, and we get it done. The problem with those two things is, in both scenarios, the quality of work suffers, and ultimately your lifestyle suffers, because you're kind of living by the seat of your pants. So I found three things that I do that have helped me to really eliminate procrastination, or minimize it to the point that it really doesn't affect me much anymore. The first one is just kind of a bottom line, no BS kind of approach. And so what it is you need to get shit done faster. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times the reason that you feel overwhelmed and you feel stressed with all of the projects and all of the work that you need to get done is because you've put off some of those projects to the point where they should have been done by now and they should be off your plate, but they're not. And so they're sitting there overwhelming you and stressing you. If you got things done as fast as you could, those things would be off your plate. And so what I try to do is focus on keeping momentum in my projects, so that no project is really ever sitting still on my plate. It's always moving quickly off of my plate, and I'm quickly moving from one to the next, so that I never have a project just sitting there stressing me and overwhelming me. Now, one of the things, again, that can really hamper that is the fact that you look at a project and you think of all of the stuff that you have to get done in order to get that project complete. So what I've found that really helps me is, I think momentum is huge when it comes to coding. Being able to grind out momentum and then keep that momentum going. And so when I'm in a state where I'm kind of static and I don't have a lot of momentum going, what I like to do is I like to focus on something small that I can do to just get going and get started, and start building up a little bit of a lather and get a flow going and get some momentum going. Because what happens when you do that is you tend to naturally get into a flow and naturally get a momentum build up, and you can use that to then power through the rest of the project or projects that you have on your plate. As an example, I was working on a project the other day, and there were really three pieces to it. Two of them were really big pieces that were going to be really involved, really intricate. One was a really small piece, which, again, I don't know if you know much about WordPress or not, but it was adding a dashboard widget to WordPress. Well, that's incredibly simple to do. And so instead of focusing on the big things that I needed to get done. I said, let me just get this one small thing done. And once I got that done, next thing I knew, I went right into the next big project and then after that into the next big piece, and it was just a few hours and I had the entire project done. That's the kind of thing that you really need to do, is grind out some of that momentum by doing something small and easy and quick first, and then riding that momentum to get the rest of it done. The second thing that I've learned how to do is I've learned how to organize my life around my inspiration. So you're going to be way better off if you can work on projects only when you're feeling inspired by them. Now, there's a lot to be said about the projects that you pick and making sure that there's some natural inspiration there, but you need to be able to organize your life around your inspiration so that when you feel inspired to work on a project and you feel motivated to work on a project, that you can go and work on it immediately. And that's the key. When you feel that inspiration, you need to work on it immediately. Now, this involves a number of things. For me, a big thing is my family. I have other things going on. I have a family. I can't just drop what I'm doing at the drop of a hat and immediately go work on some sort of project most times. But I've also talked to my family and let them know that there are times when certain things come up, or I may feel inspired to do something where I do need to just go and immediately work on it, and they understand why I have to do that. The other thing is learning how to take that inspiration and bottle it up for later. So something I did for a really long time is I carried a notebook with me everywhere, and when inspiration struck, I would draw, I would write it out, I would somehow try to capture what was going through my mind so that I could come back to it later and start going through it, and inevitably it would always kind of get me back into that mode of being inspired by whatever that was, and then I could use that to then go back and start working on whatever it is I was working on. These days I have a smartphone and I use Evernote. Whatever it is for you, if it's your smartphone, if it's a notepad, if you have to carry your laptop around, by all means go ahead and do that. But if you can't immediately go and work on it when you feel inspired, find a way to bottle up that inspiration so you can tap into it later. Finally, the third thing, and this kind of ties in to the other two, is you have to get really good at finding ways to inspire yourself. If you're going to organize your life around your inspiration, then you need to find ways to inspire yourself. And again, I've mentioned some of those. One of the biggest ways, one of the easiest ways, is the first thing that I talked about, finding a way to grind out some momentum. Because once that momentum gets going, you'll find that your inspiration just seems to naturally kick in, and it can fuel you through an entire project. So grinding out that momentum, finding that one small thing that you can focus on to get going, is a really good way to inspire yourself. Again, I talked about it in the second one, is finding a way to bottle up that inspiration and use it later when you can have time to actually work on that project. Some other things that I like to do when I look at projects, when I'm actually deciding what projects to take on, and these are some really great ways to find natural inspiration in what you're doing, is picking projects where something about the project inspires me. So maybe it is the topic of the site or the application or whatever it is I happen to be working on. Maybe it's what that person is actually doing. So a good example for me is anytime I do like a sports website, I'm naturally into sports, I naturally want to learn about sports, so it's something that just naturally intrigues me, it interests me, it inspires me. So anytime I work on one of those websites, it's easy for me to be inspired to get it done. I would say another one is the company that I work for, the people that you work with. So if you can find inspiration in the people that you work with, I'm very inspired by the people that I work with. Stu, Tracy, Mike, even the other coders that I work with on a daily basis. There's something about each one of them that inspires me and keeps me going and makes me want to make them proud and make them happy. So if you can find people that you like to work with that naturally inspire you, that can also help you. And then the last one, probably the biggest one for me, is projects that challenge you and require you to learn something as a part of that project. That for me is the most natural motivation. If I look across all of the different projects I have, the ones that I'm always just naturally drawn to are the ones where I have to learn something in order to complete it. Because again, it keeps it new, it keeps it fresh, and I find that coders tend to be people who really like to just continually learn, and that's what makes them good coders. So again, if you can find a project that, or only pick projects to work on where there's something that's going to be, you're required to learn something new as a part of it, that can be naturally inspiring for you as well. So those are some of the ways that I've learned to deal with procrastination. What about you? What ways do you deal with procrastination to keep yourself motivated, to keep yourself moving, to keep that momentum going? Let me know in the comments, and let's have a conversation about it. Alright, that does it for this episode of John Morris TV. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, will you please do me a favor and like this video down below, so that way I know that you enjoyed it. That's how I know what content that you are interested in. So if you like this video, please like it down below. Also, if you know any friends or family or anybody that might find this information useful, if you'd please share it with them, I'd appreciate that. And if you're not subscribed yet to the channel, why not? Go ahead and subscribe. That way you will get access to all of my latest videos, get access to more videos like this one, technical training videos, and so on and so forth. So wherever that button is on this page with YouTube's layout, go ahead and subscribe and get access to all the latest videos. Again, thanks for watching this episode, and I'll talk to you next time.